Kelly, aka DJ Red from Totally Wired.
And I'm Rich from Specifically Irregular.
And we're here with very special guest, Terry Stewart, who runs the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio.
How are you doing?
I'm peachy, guys. Good to be here.
Can you give us, like, some history about the hall?
Sure.
Like, yeah.
No, it's a great museum. It's in terms of success and attendance, it's the most popular of all the halls of fame. We have about 500,000 people a year that come there. What's remarkable is it's in Cleveland. It sits on the shores of Lake Erie, and a lot of people have never been to Cleveland, which is a great town despite all the bad jokes about it. It's a mistake on the lake. It's been going on for about 30 years, but the people that come to the museum are largely from elsewhere. Our attendance is made up of 50 states and 100 countries every year, so any day you're on the floor, there's multiple languages being spoken. And we take the art form very seriously. And this is the most impactful art form ever created by man, in the sense that if you look at the coming together of the races, the civil rights movement, the women's rights movements, the green movements, electing presidents, this is the platform, this is the art form that people can try to be the biggest idealist utopians that ever lived. And most artists do. They have messages and they believe there should be a better world and try to put it across. So not only do we collect and preserve and exhibit the debris or the artifacts and the music itself, we try to educate the world about the importance of this music and the power of this music. And what I mean by that is that we have the most successful award-winning educational program coming out of a fine arts museum in the United States, which includes the Getty, the Met, MoMA, everything else. We have 4 PhDs, and we teach classes using music. And the music, though, is used to teach math, science, social studies, language, arts, finance. And we go from 1st through 12th grade. We teach online. We have the #1 distance learning website in the United States. It's voted by teachers. We teach these same courses online. We have a program for toddlers, 3 to 5 inner city kids that are challenged. And we use musical therapists to teach them rhyming, alliteration, and letter recognition. And we test them at the beginning of the year, and we try to improve their cognitive learning abilities. And we do, dramatically. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's a museum. It's a destination. It's someplace everybody should go at least once in their life if they like this music. And otherwise, the power of this music is what we do in education. The other thing I should tell you is that we don't define rock and roll as a skinny white kid with a guitar. That's a very small piece. This is drum beats out of Africa, coming over with slaves. It's sometimes, it was originally called ragtime, then it's jazz, it's blues, it's gospel. It becomes race, it becomes sepia, it becomes rhythm and blues, and it becomes rock and roll. Alan Freed coined the phrase in 1952 in Cleveland, and that's one of the reasons the museum is there. But he was simply renaming rhythm and blues, and rhythm and blues was a new name for race music in the 40s. And this is black dance music that had been evolving over time. That's why we induct hip-hop artists, we induct blues artists. It's a very large tent, which allows us not only to be musically and historically correct, but allows us to examine all those genres within what we do, both in the museum and what we do in education. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but it takes a lot to explain what we do.
All right. So now Kelly and I, we've never been to the Hall of Fame, to the museum, any of that. What's it like? Is it like a Hard Rock Cafe or something like that?
Ooh, don't ever say those words.
I apologize.
New whippersnapper.
I apologize. I'm so naive.
No, and it's actually I'm glad you did say it, because a lot of people, that's what they assume we are. And I guess maybe to some, the Hard Rock does have some very important historical pieces, but not all of them. A lot of them are guitars that are signed and put on the wall. Everything we have is historically important in terms of either the instrument was played on stage, it was very important in writing a song, the costumes were used, the lyric sheets, the original ones. So you're going to see some aspect of that, but we mix interactivity, films, artifacts, permanent exhibits, temporary exhibits. The film content of the museum is about 5 hours. There are 4 theaters. We've been showing for the last year one of the most incredible concert films you'll ever see, U2 in 3D. Filmed in filmed in South America.
Creative name.
It really is. No, U2 3D is the name of the film. We have films about the evolution of rock and roll, singers and songwriters, but we have interactives. We have our first app out, and one of the apps is one of our exhibits, the Songs That Shaped Rock and Roll. It's 660 songs that we picked as a committee, and that keeps moving because this music never ends. So we had not updated for 10 years. We added about 100 songs over the last 10 years and reaching back into the 20s. This music really begins in the early 1900s with the blues and jazz. In fact, the first record to have rock and roll in its title is a song, and it sounds innocuous, but is My Man Rocks Me with One Steady Roll, which tells you what this rock and roll always meant. It was sex. And that out of that one song, the two words which were then conjoined to be say rock and roll, that phrase starts being very popular in African American parlance, and it's used extensively in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. There is no first rock and roll record. It's the first jazz record in 1917, first blues record in 1920, first hip hop record in 1979. And I'm going to quiz you to find out if you know what the first hip hop record is in a minute, but you won't. But the history of this music is so important, and it really traces the history of the United States. It's the greatest book that's never been written about the history of the United States in terms of race, sex, economics, and everything. So, you know, that's sort of a part of what my spiel. That's my sidewalk.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little about what kind of exhibits you have in the museum, and what's your favorite exhibit?
Well, as I said, we have permanent exhibits, which we're just about finished with a new renovation. And we've tried to, unlike when we opened, we've tried to lay out the exhibits in chronological order so that you'll get a better sense of the rise of this music as it comes out of slavery, and it becomes a lot of different things. And so you have these permanent exhibits on the first floor which take you through the history of the music. And there's some genre cases like metal and soul that are down there also, and some sections on the 50s. And then there's a whole area of cities where certain musical genres, whether it's early rhythm and blues and rock and roll out of Memphis, Motown, or alternative and grunge music out of the Northwest, where we capture the artifacts, the music, and we have film clips in each of those exhibits. We then create 4 to 5 new exhibits every year. We just finished a great Bruce Springsteen exhibit, and Bruce showed up on the last day to see it. We had a lot of fun because there were about 25 people still in the exhibit on a Sunday afternoon when he walked up. 2 women fainted, 1 started crying. It was a surreal experience, but it was a fabulous exhibit, and we closed it, and on next Friday we open up Women Who Rock. And
that's awesome.
It's the history.
That sounds wonderful.
It really is. No, it's going to travel, and like a lot of our exhibits, and it's the history of the marginalized voices of women in music, and as compared to, much as you would in college, marginalized voices of women in society and business. So you see the rise of women in the music early on. Only when the blues was first recorded in the 20s, for a while they only thought black women, not black men, should record the blues. But then eventually, as you know, women become sort of the objects within music as they have within culture in general. But eventually we see that turned around in the 60s and 70s as you see the rise of singer-songwriters and the importance of women as the women's movement also rises up. So we'll be examining all of that. We've got 60 artists in the exhibit and their artifacts, including who's the biggest artist today in pop music.
I'm going to go with Lady Gaga.
You are so smart. I can't believe it. Must be the Rutgers education. Yeah, Lady Gaga. We have some great pieces. We have some dresses. We have her first piano. And we have the most amazing artifact that you can probably think of. Let's see how much you know about Gaga. What did she wear that nobody could believe she wore?
Was
the
bubble
flame.
dress?
The meat dress.
The meat. You have the meat dress.
That's awesome.
She was just in Cleveland. The last show of the Monster Ball was last week in Cleveland. I saw her on the first one. I saw her on the last one. She's a great artist. She's very, very talented, despite all the craziness that swirls around her. She's a great piano player, good guitar player, and claims the first time she was in Cleveland, her dad came over to the museum, and she didn't come. She actually had a bus that she uses to write her music on. It's almost like a studio. And she claims that she wrote a #1 record about Cleveland while she was on the bus, and she talked about it and sang it a little bit the other night. It hasn't been released yet because the album isn't out yet. So we're covering the whole history of women in music. So.